Hello and welcome to my channel. I am Jimmy Chan and my channel is Food for HNM. Remember, one chin. But cheers. Remember, this is a Holy Bible channel and you can learn some things, values. There are many stories in the Holy Bible. God wrote the book through his prophets, the creator of everything. 2,000 years ago, he came, the Son of God, as the God-man, Jesus Christ. He provided for the purification of sins. If we accept him, in John 3:16, it says, God so loved the world. That's you. You live in the world. He doesn't love the ways of the world. He loves you, men and women, children, possibly some animals. He loved us so much that he gave his only Son, who's Jesus Christ, that whosoever believes in him, and you just have to believe in him, that he can do it, I believe in you, if you believe in me, you're like, I know you can do it, whoever believeth in him shall not perish, but have eternal life. So I mentioned something like your consciousness. Sometimes you wonder, if you die, is that it? Is it over? You will go to sleep and never wake up again. That's really scary. But if you believe in Jesus Christ, you will live on, your consciousness. You will die, and then you see it in the movies. Somehow you'll wake up again. And you'll sit up, and then you'll be like, wait a minute, my body's right there. And then you might see Jesus. Hi, Jesus. He's right there. He has come to get you. You're like, come on, And everyone's crying. And they can't see that, you just walked, you lifted out of your body, and then you're standing right here, And you go over to Jesus, and he shakes your hand. And he's like, you ready to go, ready to go up, to a better place, a higher place, more elevated. And then you're ready, and then maybe some people walk through the wall, and it's your grandpa. He's like, I came because I know you're ready to go. And then, your cousin, the one that died in Nam, he walks through the wall. He's like, I'm here too, we've come to go up with you because, maybe you don't trust Jesus, but you would trust your grandpa and your cousin. And then, all of these Kadosh Malakim appear. They look like military guys with wings. But they're not wings, they're flames coming out of their back. They're really frightening, But they are friends. You just don't mess with them. They don't play, so to speak. You have armed guard, your own super secret service. The president has the secret service to protect him. And these Kadosh Malakim, walk through the wall. They're a lot taller than this, They might be 8-9 feet tall. And I feel safe. And then Jesus is I'll see you there. And then he just disappears. Go, you hear him, you see that arm maybe. And then, somehow you all just flying up towards the light. You shall not perish. Your consciousness will go on. As I described, perhaps. There are many accounts that is pretty much what happens. So let's take a look at the book of Judges. And then I get my mask on. Possibly I can get something from you, even through the computer. Nah, I'm just kidding. Around in the air, there might be coronavirus. You never can be too careful. Never can be too careful. You could be too gun shy, you're a little slow on the draw, but safety first. Safety first. I'm not going to die, We wouldn't really be doing our best, God gives us life, We must do our best in our lifetime. Be successful. But if you're not successful, you can be the best you and make the world a better place. And God, He's so rich. He doesn't think in terms of money, He might think in terms of, is it needed, even if you're not paid for it? Or is it small? Because even though God is big, we tend to ignore small things. But that's how problems start, They start small and it grows. And then before you know it, it's a monster, you cannot handle it. So if you see something that needs to be done and it's small, just maybe go ahead and do it, Solve this little problem that could become a monster of a problem. Okay, so we left off with Gideon. Gideon got God to show us his powers. He was like, yeah, God is cool. He's powerful. Now he's getting ready to make it, put together his own army. And it's not going to have a lot of people. Remember, he said, I'm the least of my in Manasseh, he said, I am the least, the weakest. He didn't say least. My clan is the weakest. That means I have the fewest numbers, and I'm the least in my family. I don't have many right hand and left hand men, Trusted, I called them, homie managers, to make my colonels and captains. But God said, the Lord, He is the creator. He said, I will be with you. You will win. And you will strike them all down. So let us go to Judges 7. Number 7 is a cool number. I don't know why, but 1, 3, and 7. And perhaps 12. And 13, because 13 is again 1 and 3. Those are very Holy Bible, and perhaps the Lord's special numbers. So this next section is titled Gideon defeats the Midianites. Remember, the Midianites, they're a bunch of bad guys there are a lot of them, and they're really cruel, they are cruel, like barbarians. Early in the morning, Jerub-Baal, that is Gideon. So Gideon has another name now, Jerub-Baal, he who contends with Baal. That means he's a fighter. He fights Baal. Now remember, the Baal might be the Philistines and the Midianites and the Amalekites, false god. God, the creator, the creator of heavens and the earth, right? He is the Lord, Jesus. God is Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. The Son is Jesus. And you have to remember, God is really old, but he doesn't get weak. But if he's really old and we are so young, he is infinity years old, and I only make it to 80. And if there are people who reincarnate on this world, at the most they're 10, 15,000 years old. But that's nothing compared to infinity years old. He is an infinite God who is infinity years old. And his Father is infinity times infinity years old. And there's something like, can I relate? So of course, it would be the Son who talks to us. He's younger. So remember, Baal is like a fake false god, like something in the imagination of these bad guys, the Midianites and the Amalekites and these other eastern peoples, but probably the Philistines. The camp of Midian was north of them, in the valley near the hill of Moreh. The Lord, that is Adonai, said to Gideon, "You have too many men. I cannot deliver Midian into their hands." You have to see a movie called The Chronicles of Narnia, The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. These 4 kids, they join a battle, and there's this tough-looking half-man, half-horse that seems to be subordinate to the oldest kid. But no, that is a representation of a Kadosh Malakim. He is higher. Well, obviously, he's like this big, muscular, half-man, half-horse with a sword, with a really cool sword. He is there to advise and step in if things become too much to handle for, the oldest kid that is in this battle of good versus evil. So you have to remember that these angel of God and angel of the Lord, they're around, And they have in this movie I just mentioned, they have a lion representing the Lord. I think that's kind of lame. God, the Lord, he's invisible. So Gideon would be like these kids in this movie I just mentioned. The Chronicles of Narnia. The first one is, pardon me, that was kind of gross. The first one is called The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. But God, the Lord is saying, you have too many people. I cannot deliver Midian into their hands, or Israel would boast against me. Say, I want to defeat them with fewer people, like you're a bunch of Marines. My own strength has saved me. Now announce to the army, anyone who trembles with fear may turn back and leave Mount Gilead. So 22,000 men left, while 10,000 remained. But the Lord said to Gideon, this is a cool story, there are still too many men. Take them down to the water, and I will thin them out for you. There, if I say this one shall go with you, he shall go. But if I say this one shall not go with you, he shall not go. So Gideon took the men down to the water. There the Lord told him, separate those who lap, that's lick, lap the water with their tongues as a dog laps, from those who kneel down to drink. 300 of them drank from cupped hands, lapping like dogs. All the rest got down on their knees to drink. The Lord said to Gideon, with the 300 men that lapped, I will save you and give the Midianites into your hands. So you have to have a picture of who he picked. he brought people, soldiers, to the water and said, drink. Let's see how you do it. Of course, all of them got down on their knees. So all the rest just got down on their knees to drink. So they were kneeling, and then they probably had like a thermos, and then they like scooped it into the water and drank while on their knees. So they were respectful in God's presence. But 300 of them were on their knees, and all they did was this with their hands. You know, in church sometimes you do like a motion like this, right? Like this. You know what I mean? Like this. It looks like this. So they went up to the water and they scooped it with their hands. They scooped it with their hands, and then they drank like a dog out of their own hands. You know, Ken doesn't have God said, those are the guys, the stupid heads I want. Let all the others go home. So they had 32,000 men in an army ready to fight Midian. And remember, Midian, there are so many Midianites, Amalekites, and they call them other eastern people. They said there were so many of them in the earlier chapter. Now there are only 300. Gideon and 300. So Gideon, he kept the 300 who took over the provisions and trumpets of the others. Now the camp of Midian lay below him in the valley. So they were camped out. During that night, the Lord said to Gideon, get up, go down against the camp, because I am going to give it into your hands. You will win and destroy them. If you are afraid to attack, go down to the camp with your servant Purah and listen to what they are saying. Remember, they're not afraid. If you are not able to not hold back, don't hold back. Do not be afraid. Go down and spy on them a little and see what they're saying. Afterward, you will be encouraged to attack the camp. So he and Purah, his servant, went down to the outposts of the camp. The Midianites, the Amalekites, and all the other eastern peoples had settled in the valley, thick as locusts. Their camels could no more be counted than the sand on the seashore. Gideon arrived just as a man was telling a friend his dream. I had a dream, he was saying. A round loaf of barley bread came tumbling into the Midian camp. It struck the tent with such force that the tent overturned and collapsed. His friend responded, This can be nothing other than the sword of Gideon, son of Joash, the Israelite. God has given the Midianites and the whole camp into his hands. When Gideon heard the dream and its interpretation, he bowed down and worshipped. He returned to the camp of Israel and called out, Get up! The Lord has given the Midianite camp into your hands. That means they're going to win. Some of you play sports. If the other team is saying that, whoa, Gideon's tough. Usually you never talk up, a player on the other team. And then they're even saying God, the Creator, is going to, give them the power to defeat us. we're going to lose. The other team never says we're going to lose. Both teams go in wanting to win and thinking they're going to win. So they're going to lose. That is very encouraging for Gideon and his army of 300. Dividing the 300 men into 3 companies, he placed trumpets and empty jars in the hands of all of them with torches inside. Watch me, he told them. Follow my lead. When I get to the edge of the camp, do exactly as I do. When I and all who are with me blow our trumpets, then from all around the camp, blow yours and shout for the Lord and for Gideon. Gideon and the 100 men with him reached the edge of the camp at the beginning of the middle watch. So a watch, Christians, those of you who are Christians, later on when the Lord himself and someone named Paul said, you must keep watch. That is military. That is a military term. So at nighttime, usually when your guard is down, you have to be even more, you have to protect yourself even more because bad things happen at night. So you can divide the day into 2, right? There are 24 hours of day 24 hours in a day. So you could say there's something like 12 hours of day and 12 hours of nighttime. So usually the morning is 6. So from 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. you could have something called watch time. Watch. That is the watch. So in the middle of the watch, you just divide it into 3, right? So 4 hours, 4 hours, and 4 hours. So this is between 10 and 2 a.m. So at around 10 p.m., right, the beginning of the middle watch, just after they had changed their guard. So we're talking about the enemy. They're rotating out. Like if you play sports, someone runs off the bench and someone runs in from the field or the court, and you get a fresh player in there. They blew their trumpets and broke the jars that were in their hands. The 3 companies blew the trumpets and smashed the jars, grasping the torches in their left hands and holding in their right hands the trumpets they were to blow. They shouted, a sword for the Lord and for Gideon, while each man held his position around the camp. All the Midianites ran, crying out as they fled. When the 300 trumpets sounded, the Lord caused the men throughout the camp to turn on each other with their swords. So the enemy started to kill each other themselves. The enemy killed themselves, or they got stupid and didn't fight Gideon and his soldiers. They started to fight each other and kill each other. The army fled to Beth Shittah toward Zerarah as far as the border of Abel Meholah near Tabath. Israelites from Naphtali, Asher, and all Manasseh were called out, and they pursued the Midianites. Gideon sent messengers throughout the hill country of Ephraim, or Ephraim, saying, Come down against the Midianites, and seize the waters of the Jordan ahead of them as far as Beth Barah. So all the men of Ephraim, or Ephraim, were called out, and they seized the waters of the Jordan as far as Beth Barah. They also captured 2 of the Midianite leaders, Oreb and Zeeb. They killed Oreb at the rock of Oreb, and Zeeb at the winepress of Zeeb. They pursued the Midianites and brought the heads of Oreb and Zeeb to Gideon. So they chopped off their heads, and they had 2 heads. Here's Oreb's head. They had a head. They chopped it off, and here's Zeeb's head. They brought these 2 heads with no bodies attached to them to Gideon, chopped off, who was by the Jordan. Thank you for listening. It's a very intense chapter, so we will end there. Thank you for listening. Keep God first, and He'll take you places. Hello, I'm trying a different angle. So don't look this. Hello, welcome to my channel.